Across the ancient world, civilizations rose and fell, leaving behind stones, monuments, and forgotten kings. But in the Indian subcontinent, something different endured. Not just structures or dynasties, but ideas. Ideas so powerful that they outlasted empires, traveled across borders, and reshaped the spiritual imagination of humanity. Among these, three stand at the center: karma, dharma, and moksha. Words that today appear in motivational quotes, yoga studios, and social media captions, yet remain far deeper than their modern fragments. To truly understand them, we must go back, beyond the noise of contemporary interpretations, beyond stereotypes and simplifications. We must return to a world where philosophy was not a classroom subject, but a way of living, where sages debated beneath banyan trees, kings sought wisdom before conquest, and the quiet rhythm of nature shaped the way people understood the universe. This documentary is a journey into that world, not through myth or fantasy, but through the living heartbeat of an ancient civilization that dared to ask questions others had not yet imagined. What governs the universe? Why do our actions matter? What is the purpose of life? And is liberation merely an ending or a beginning? We will explore how these concepts emerged, how they shaped society, how they evolved, and why they continue to influence millions across continents today. This is not just the story of three philosophical ideas. It is the story of humanity's attempt to understand justice, responsibility, purpose, and spiritual freedom. Prepare to step into a civilization where philosophy guided rulers, sculpted art, shaped economies, and offered answers to life's deepest mysteries. A civilization where karma was not punishment, dharma was not blind duty, and moksha was not escape, but a profound vision of the human experience. This is the real story behind ancient India's most misunderstood concepts. A story that still speaks to us, even thousands of years later. To uncover the roots of karma, dharma, and moksha, we must return to a time before they took their familiar forms. The Indian subcontinent, with its rivers, forests, and fertile plains, was home to one of the world's earliest urban cultures, the Indus Valley Civilization. Its people built advanced cities, regulated water systems, and maintained vast trade networks. While their script remains undeciphered, their orderly settlements hint at a worldview guided by balance and structured life, an early echo of the philosophical ideas that would later emerge. But the full story begins with the arrival and integration of Indo-Aryan cultural groups around 1500 BCE. These communities brought with them oral hymns, verses that celebrated cosmic forces, natural elements, and ritual harmony. These hymns became the Rig Veda, one of humanity's oldest surviving texts. Though not yet describing karma or moksha, it introduced the concept of RTA, the cosmic order. This was a groundbreaking idea. The universe operated on law, not chaos. As centuries passed, rituals gave way to reflection. Forest hermitages replaced tribal gatherings. Priests evolved into philosophers. And the seed of RTA transformed into Dharma, a deeper moral and universal order. Spiritual seekers began asking, what is the source of life? What binds the soul to the world? Why does suffering exist? The answers emerged in the Upanishads, composed between 800 and 500 BCE. Here we find the earliest full expressions of karma, the law of action and consequence, dharma, ethical and cosmic duty, and moksha, the liberation of the soul from the cycle of rebirth. These were not just religious concepts, but profound philosophical frameworks. They reshaped the understanding of human existence itself. Meanwhile, cities such as Varanasi, Takshashila, and Rajgir became centers of intellectual vibrancy. Scholars debated logic, metaphysics, astronomy, and ethics. Yogis practiced meditation long before it spread across the world. Ascetics experimented with self-discipline, seeking mastery over the mind. This fertile intellectual climate did not produce one doctrine, but many. Jainism and Buddhism emerged as powerful traditions offering fresh interpretations of karma, compassion, and liberation. Instead of weakening the philosophical core, these debates strengthened it, demonstrating how dynamic and adaptable the civilization truly was. Thus, the origins of these concepts were not sudden revelations. They were the result of centuries of cultural blending, spiritual searching, and philosophical evolution. A slow, deliberate unfolding that would define India's identity for millennia. To enter the world of ancient India is to step into a civilization where philosophy was woven into the rhythms of daily life. Karma, Dharma, and Moksha were not abstract theories reserved for scholars. They shaped how people ate, worked, ruled, created art, raised families, and made decisions. These ideas formed the cultural backbone of a society defined by moral awareness, spiritual curiosity, and profound introspection. At sunrise, the civilization came alive. Farmers tended their fields, craftsmen shaped bronze and stone, merchants prepared their stalls, and teachers gathered students beneath shady trees to recite sacred texts. Every action held meaning, because every action generated karma. But karma was not imagined as punishment or reward. It was understood as a natural law. Actions create consequences, intentions shape destiny, and consciousness determines the quality of one's life. This produced a society deeply aware of responsibility. People understood that ethical behavior was not enforced by kings, but by the universe itself. Dharma added another layer of meaning. It was more than duty. It was the alignment between purpose, morality, and truth. A leader's dharma was justice. A healer's dharma was care. A student's dharma was discipline and curiosity. Dharma did not force people into rigid roles. Rather, it invited them to live in harmony with the greater order of existence. A person out of alignment with Dharma experienced both inner unrest and social imbalance. These ideas were taught through stories, not commandments. The epics, Mahabharata and Ramayana, offered rich moral landscapes where characters struggled with difficult choices. Arjuna's crisis on the battlefield, for instance, explored the tension between personal emotion and universal duty. These stories were not myths to ancient audiences. They were mirrors reflecting the complexity of real human life. Daily rituals also reflected the philosophical worldview. Lighting lamps symbolized inner awareness. Offerings to ancestors showed respect for continuity and memory. Meditation and yoga were tools for mastering the mind and breaking negative cycles of karma. Spirituality here was practical. It was about clarity, balance, and awakening. Art and architecture embodied these concepts beautifully. Temples were not simply places of worship. They were representations of cosmic structure. Their towers symbolized ascent toward moksha. Their carvings illustrated the dance between chaos and order. Music was composed to mirror emotional states, guiding listeners toward inner harmony. Society itself was organized around the pursuit of dharma and ethical living. While ancient India certainly had social hierarchies, these structures were originally conceived not as rigid birth-based systems, but as functional frameworks rooted in skill, character, and responsibility. Over centuries, these ideas were reshaped, sometimes misused, but their original intent was harmony, not division. Moksha, the spiritual goal, was regarded not as escape from life, but as freedom from ignorance. It meant recognizing that the self was not isolated, but part of a vast interconnected reality. Different paths developed for different personalities. Some sought knowledge, some devotion, some action, some meditation. There was no single road to truth, only a shared longing for inner liberation. Thus, ancient Indian society lived in a continuous dialogue between the material and the spiritual. Karma shaped choices. Dharma shaped purpose. Moksha shaped aspiration. Together, they created a culture that embraced ethical living, personal responsibility, and the possibility of transcendence. Values that still inspire millions across the world today. Ancient India was a civilization where philosophy and practicality intertwined. The ideas of karma, dharma, and moksha guided not only spiritual life, but also inspired extraordinary advancements in knowledge, science, and creativity. In this society, the pursuit of understanding the world was considered part of one's dharma, a sacred duty. Mathematics became a cornerstone of intellectual achievement. Indian scholars developed the concept of zero, a revolutionary idea that transformed calculations and refined the decimal system, algebra, and trigonometry. These innovations would later travel to the Arab world and Europe, forming the backbone of modern mathematics. The precision of their calculations reflected a culture that saw numerical knowledge as both practical and cosmic, a means to understand universal order. Medicine flourished in ways that still resonate today. Ayurveda, the traditional system of health, combined physical remedies with spiritual balance. Ancient physicians documented surgical techniques, used herbal medicines, and understood the interplay between mind and body. Sushruta, often called the father of surgery, performed complex operations such as cataract removal and reconstructive procedures long before such knowledge existed in Europe. Astronomy revealed their fascination with the cosmos. Scholars charted planetary movements, predicted eclipses, and even estimated the Earth's circumference. Temples and observatories were designed to align with celestial patterns, reflecting a worldview that sought harmony between human life and the universe. Time, rhythm, and cycles were studied not just for curiosity, but as a path to synchronize human behavior with cosmic order. Art and architecture reflected spiritual and ethical ideals. Sculptures captured serenity and moral strength. Temple designs mirrored philosophical concepts, guiding devotees from earthly life toward the realization of moksha. Literature thrived, producing epic poetry, drama, and philosophical treatises that explored the human condition and ethical living. These creations were not merely decorative. They were tools for teaching, contemplation, and the embodiment of cosmic principles. Even commerce was intertwined with philosophy. Merchants traded textiles, spices, metals, and gems across vast regions, following ethical principles that upheld social dharma and generated positive karma. Business was seen not just as profit, but as responsibility, a contribution to society and the moral fabric of the civilization. From mathematics to medicine, from temples to trade, ancient India's achievements were profound. They were not isolated inventions, but manifestations of a culture that pursued knowledge, ethics, and beauty as inseparable elements. Each innovation was a reflection of a civilization striving to align life, society, and the cosmos, a legacy that continues to inspire the modern world. The story of karma, dharma, and moksha is inseparable from the lives of extraordinary individuals who shaped these ideas and brought them into daily life. Ancient India's thinkers, rulers, and spiritual guides transformed abstract concepts into living traditions that influenced millions. Among the earliest figures were the anonymous sages of the Upanishads. These philosophers moved beyond ritual to explore the essence of reality, consciousness, and human purpose. Yajnavalkya, a towering mind of his era, articulated the eternal nature of the soul and the law of karma with precision and depth. Gargi, a remarkable woman philosopher, debated metaphysics before kings, challenging assumptions and expanding the reach of knowledge. Kapila, founder of the Samkhya school, laid intellectual foundations for meditation, self-discipline, and the understanding of duality in human existence. Later, figures like Mahavira and the Buddha reinterpreted these ideas for broader audiences. Mahavira, the founder of Jainism, emphasized nonviolence, self-discipline, and moral responsibility, showing that liberation could be achieved through ethical living. The Buddha, through his teachings on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, reframed karma and the cycle of rebirth, offering practical guidance for overcoming suffering. Both transformed abstract philosophy into actionable spiritual paths, accessible to all, not just the elite. Rulers also played a vital role in shaping the civilization's ethical and philosophical landscape. Emperor Ashoka, after witnessing the devastation of war, embraced Dharma as a guiding principle for governance. He promoted compassion, justice, and education, establishing policies that protected both humans and animals, and sent scholars abroad to spread knowledge. His life demonstrated how Dharma could guide political power, integrating philosophy into the administration of an empire. Artists, poets, and teachers also contributed to this intellectual ecosystem. Through stories, epics, and debates, they made complex ideas tangible and memorable. Texts like the Mahabharata and Ramayana did more than entertain. They illustrated the moral dilemmas inherent in Dharma, the consequences of karma, and the pursuit of moksha. Collectively, these figures, philosophers, spiritual guides, rulers, and artists, shaped the moral, intellectual, and spiritual contours of ancient India. Their influence transcended borders and centuries, embedding karma, dharma, and moksha into the fabric of human understanding. They remind us that ideas are not abstract. They live, breathe, and grow through the lives of those who embody them. No civilization is immune to struggle, and ancient India faced challenges that tested both its material and philosophical foundations. Political rivalries between kingdoms often erupted into wars, forcing rulers and citizens alike to confront the tension between dharma, their moral duty, and the demands of survival. These conflicts were not merely battles for land, but moral dilemmas where right action was never simple, and the consequences of decisions weighed heavily on both leaders and their people. Environmental challenges added another layer of complexity. Rivers that nourished life could also flood and destroy, while shifting monsoon patterns sometimes caused famine. Communities were forced to adapt to changing landscapes, developing agricultural techniques and water management systems that reflected both ingenuity and an understanding of balance, a practical application of dharma in daily life. Invasions from Central Asian tribes and other neighboring peoples reshaped political and cultural landscapes. New rulers brought different customs and philosophies, challenging traditional practices. While these encounters could be violent, they also sparked intellectual exchange, forcing local scholars to defend, reinterpret, and refine their understanding of karma, dharma, and moksha. In a way, conflict became a catalyst for philosophical growth, demonstrating the resilience of ideas even amidst chaos. Internal social tensions also tested the civilization. Debates over caste, hierarchy, and social responsibility were frequent. Philosophers, reformers, and ascetics often challenged established norms, arguing for more equitable interpretations of dharma. Religious and philosophical pluralism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, was itself a response to perceived shortcomings in earlier structures, illustrating a society continuously negotiating ethical and spiritual complexity. Even epic literature reflects these struggles. The Mahabharata, perhaps the greatest repository of moral debate, depicts families, kings, and warriors entangled in questions of duty, justice, and consequence. Here, the abstract principles of karma and dharma collide with real human emotion, revealing a civilization grappling with universal challenges that remain relevant today. Through wars, environmental pressures, invasions, and social debates, ancient India faced trials that tested the coherence of its philosophy and society. Yet rather than breaking the civilization, these challenges refined it. They shaped a culture where ideas were living, adaptable, and capable of guiding humanity through uncertainty and adversity. As centuries passed, the landscape of India's spiritual and intellectual life shifted, adapted, and evolved. Empires rose and fell. The Mauryas, the Guptas, the Cholas, and with them, the interpretation and application of karma, dharma, and moksha transformed. These ideas were not static. They were living, breathing philosophies that responded to changing societies, cultural exchanges, and new challenges. During the classical period, the Bhakti movement began to emphasize devotion over ritual, portraying dharma not only as duty, but as love and surrender to the divine. This was a radical reinterpretation. The path to moksha could now include heartfelt devotion, not solely ascetic discipline or philosophical study. Simultaneously, Jain and Buddhist traditions continued to refine karma and ethical responsibility, emphasizing nonviolence, compassion, and mindfulness in ways that reached people across social strata. Centers of learning flourished. Universities such as Nalanda and Vikramashila became hubs of intellectual exchange, drawing students and scholars from across Asia. Here, the ideas of karma, dharma, and moksha were debated, codified, and disseminated. Texts were written, commentaries expanded, and philosophical schools flourished, ensuring that these principles were not confined to the elite, but accessible to anyone seeking understanding. The arrival of new rulers and foreign influences brought additional reinterpretations. Trade, conquest, and cultural exchange introduced Indian philosophy to distant lands, while colonial powers often oversimplified or misrepresented these ideas. Karma became fate, dharma became religion, moksha became nirvana in a flattened, westernized understanding. Yet even through distortion, the core principles endured, adaptable enough to survive centuries of external pressures. By the medieval and early modern periods, These concepts had permeated daily life, art, governance, and education. Festivals, literature, temple rituals, and music all reflected an enduring awareness of cosmic law, moral responsibility, and the possibility of liberation. Spiritual guides, teachers, and poets continued to interpret ancient wisdom for new generations, demonstrating that the evolution of philosophy does not diminish its power, it strengthens it. Through change, invasion, reinterpretation, and globalization, ancient India's philosophical heritage survived. Karma, Dharma, and Moksha remained relevant, not as relics of the past, but as dynamic tools guiding human behavior, ethical reasoning, and spiritual aspiration across time and space. Today, the influence of ancient India's philosophy is global, stretching far beyond the subcontinent. Yoga studios, meditation centers, mindfulness practices, and philosophical courses all draw directly from concepts shaped thousands of years ago. Yet while these ideas have been adapted for modern life, their original depth often remains overlooked. Karma is frequently simplified to, "What goes around comes around," losing the nuance of intention and ethical responsibility. Dharma is misinterpreted as destiny or mere religious duty, rather than a conscious alignment with universal and personal moral law. Moksha is sometimes mistaken for escapism, rather than liberation from ignorance and the realization of oneness with the universe. Understanding their original meaning restores their power and relevance. In contemporary India, these principles continue to shape social, political, and personal life. Leaders invoke Dharma in governance. Educators teach ethical responsibility informed by karma. Spiritual practitioners guide seekers toward moksha through meditation, knowledge, and service. Beyond India, the ideas have inspired global thinkers, writers, and spiritual seekers, influencing psychology, ethics, and even organizational behavior. The relevance of karma, dharma, and moksha in today's fast-paced, technologically driven world is striking. They offer a framework for mindful living, responsible decision-making, and self-transcendence. In an era dominated by instant gratification, superficial success, and global uncertainty, these ancient principles remind us that actions have consequences, that purpose matters, and that true freedom comes from understanding ourselves, not escaping the world. Art, literature, and film continue to draw from these themes. Modern adaptations of ancient epics explore moral dilemmas, ethical responsibility, and the quest for liberation, illustrating that the questions posed thousands of years ago are timeless. Social movements, environmental advocacy, and ethical business practices can all trace inspiration back to these philosophical roots. The legacy of ancient India is not confined to history books. It lives in the way people think, act, and seek meaning today. Karma, Dharma, and Moksha remain guiding lights, bridging past and present, east and west, intellect and spirit, reminding humanity that some ideas are eternal because they speak to the universal human experience. As our journey draws to a close, we return from history to the quiet spaces within ourselves, the spaces ancient India's sages first explored thousands of years ago. Karma, Dharma, and Moksha are not just historical concepts. They are living ideas that continue to guide thought, action, and the search for meaning. Every decision we make, every action we take, generates a ripple. Karma teaches that responsibility is inescapable. Dharma reminds us that purpose is not abstract, it is lived, in choices large and small. Moksha shows that liberation is possible, not by leaving life behind, but by transcending ignorance and awakening to the unity of all things. The civilization that gave birth to these ideas no longer exists in its original form, yet its heartbeat persists. It echoes in our ethical reflections, our spiritual aspirations, and even in the way we tell stories about duty, consequence, and freedom. The rivers have changed course, empires have fallen, languages have evolved, but the questions they asked, the questions about life, morality, and liberation, remain ours to explore. As we reflect on this civilization and its enduring philosophy, we are reminded that wisdom is not bound by time. It survives because it resonates with the human experience, because it asks us to look inward even as we navigate the outer world. And so, as the sun sets over the landscapes of ancient India, we see not ruins, but a living legacy. a civilization that continues to shape the way humanity understands responsibility, purpose, and freedom. A civilization whose ideas quietly guide us, moment by moment, toward awareness, compassion, and liberation. The story of karma, dharma, and moksha is far from over. It lives within each choice we make, each ethical path we follow, and each journey of self-discovery. It is timeless, universal, and profoundly human,